Since it's coming up on Christmas, it got me thinking about what's really important at this time of year. Hearts of Iron 4. To be more specific, the Man the Guns DLC. After seeing how the devs respond positively to fan feedback, I'd thought I'd take this opportunity to offer what I considered to be some minor changes to the base game in the hopes that Paradox might see them and add them such. To clarify, I'm not talking about the rework of an entire focus tree, I'm looking at you, Italy, but perhaps the adding of one focus or the alteration of some features, small things that could maybe improve the game experience as it stands so far. I'm going to start with Australia, which I think could have been sold the short straw when it comes to their possibility in World War II. The issue as it stands right now is Australia has so much land, but neither the tech nor building slots it deserves to utilise that. Comparing it to a similar country, Canada, also a puppet in the Commonwealth, Australia finds its research locked behind multiple unneeded barriers, such as the 20% world tension, being at war and being independent all combined. Considering most nations in the world start with 2 research slots, this would be fine. However, Xinjiang, in China, is able to have 3 research slots after completing just 2 focuses, while Australia has to wait for the fall of Eastern Europe before it can make a move historically for its 3rd research slot. My workaround for this would be moving the Army Inventions Directorate next to the Western Australian Government Railways focus, making it more accessible and replacing that now empty slot with a focus similar to Hungary's Support Urbanisation focus that adds 3 building slots without adding factories. My desire here is not to buff the industry of Australia directly, but open up its potential in the mid-game. Moving on, I have a more flavourful request. When South Africa does the A King for Our People focus, instead of it immediately proccing, a decision could be given instead. Do we want Edward to serve as a constitutional monarch exactly how he is implemented in the game now, as a national spirit for stability and division buffs, or add in a new option, to have him as an absolutist, granting the inexperienced imperialist buffs and more importantly appearing as the nation's portraited leader and assuming his English control? I do have reasoning for this matter. The fascist leader looks too much like Simon Russell Beale from The Death of Stalin, and frankly when I have a king in power, I want him to be in power.
I won't forget him.
Another couple of short changes I'd suggest to the generic focus tree. As of right now, the generic focus tree is a very important and difficult tree to change because it covers so many countries, more so with the amount of tags being added with Man the Guns. You don't want to make it more formidable because you run the risk of making Liberia a major player, while at the same time the focus tree also represents Spain, Turkey, Sweden and Brazil, who you don't want to make too weak. Otherwise invading them could be too easy for countries like Germany. So what would I want to change about a tree so well designed as it stands right now to not fall too far off either side of the bridge? Well, firstly, I think the industrial effort could use a buff from 1 50% bonus to 2. With all these new technologies being added to the game, which I wholeheartedly support, I'm concerned miners won't even be able to keep up, although I acknowledge Paradox is also aware of this issue. Still, I feel 2 bonuses is a fair buff in the circumstances. If I was to be bold, I'd also sneak in the suggestion to sneak an extra focus in below Infrastructure Effort 1. In essence, it's support urbanisation again, opening up 3 building slots. However, I'd encourage the prerequisite that the country must have 25 factories before they can take the focus. This means places like Uruguay can't capitalise on expansion, while players like Brazil in the meantime can fairly. Maybe even a support urbanisation 2 below the first one that requires 50 factories, but I know I'm pushing my case. The last change I'd make to the generic tree is a slight buff to the army and Doctrine efforts to add a plus 10 experience instead of just 5. Just to allow more options for creating some more abstract unit divisions, because as of right now, getting a military theorist advisor is one of the most important advisors for building an army. Some more accessible focuses for XP could be better for miners, as options are always better. As of right now, the folks over at Paradox have given no indication that they want to add more formable nations to the game. I want to stick my ideas for some more in now, before that concept gets swept under the carpet. The West African coast for a greater African Union to achieve. A formation of all the stans, such as Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, etc. A union between New Zealand and Australia. Iberia, seen as Spain, Portugal and potentially that little issue known as Gibraltar. Great Britain and Ireland, because adding the northern on gets old. The classic Brazilian Empire, when Brazil owns Uruguay. The United States of South America, where Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, Venezuela, Chile, Argentina, Uruguay and Paraguay have the option that should they own every state of the other, and are democratic, they can form a southern equivalent of the Star-Spangled Banner. The new Kingdom of Egypt, where Egypt owns the Levant. The Mongolian Empire across Asia and Russia. And finally Hispaniola, where either Haiti or Dominican Republic conquers the other and unites their island. I'll say here how I feel these are just ideas, and my real suggestion is for the addition of more formable nations in general. And that about wraps things up. I'll just use this time to recite a few additional ideas that sprung to mind. More prospect for resources decisions in minor nations in Africa, especially regarding iron. If a focus relies on world tension, and world tension drops beneath the threshold, the focus shouldn't instantly cancel, but carry on as normal. And Austria-Hungary has a decision to recall Otto von Habsburg if they were originally Czechoslovakia, Austria or Croatia. I'm sure, as with many fans, I could go on till the cats come home about stuff we want in the game, but patience is a virtue. It's with that I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video and want to see more videos about content for Hoi 4, please like the video and subscribe. You might help Paradox see this video and hey, maybe one of the suggestions will get through into the game. Regardless, thank you very much for watching again, and I'll catch you on the next episode.